Hey lovely viewers, I thought it'd be nice to have another plant chat today. Just going to take a quick look at what's going on with some bits of new growth, have a little poke around the terrarium that I put together. I showed this a couple of months ago, so it's really only a couple of months into development, but I'm actually pretty excited about it and I want to share what's happening with that. And you're probably going to see more than one video about goings on in the terrarium in the next week or so, but today I just wanted to take a quick overview. Now, I tried filming this a couple of days ago, but it turns out I really needed to take the whole lid off to be able to get in and get a good look at what's going on. So let's take a look to start with at what we've got growing in here right now and how everything's doing. So initially when I put together the terrarium, I'm not sure if I put this bit of Cebu blue pothos in there yet, but I did decide that it should go in there, and I built up the moss pole a bit for it. This I got as a couple of cuttings, and it's not been the fastest growing. I mean, it hasn't been the slowest growing either, but I thought popping it in the terrarium might really give it a bit of a boost, and it has. You see lots and lots of growth, and this beautiful new leaf here. So I'm thinking what I'm going to do is, I did buy another giant Cebu blue pothos, and I might propagate a couple more bits of that and put that in here to try and get it growing up and fill this space in back here, because I think that'd be kind of fun, just to add that touch of vining. So down here we have the maidenhair that I popped in. It's in a very shady position, and one thing is I will be doing some trimming come spring on the Hypoestes phylostachya, this polka dot plant, which I'll talk about more in a moment. But I think that this is getting just a bit too much shade, but at the same time we do have some lovely new growth on the fern back in here, which I'm a bit surprised by. I hadn't noticed that until I took the lid off, so you're seeing this with me for the first time. Now, this other fern is going gangbusters. This is actually not a fern. It's called a fern, but it's the asparagus fern, and it's really an asparagus, and I'll be darned if I know what any of that means. But I do know that it's creating this lovely spot of feathery growth here that really adds to the texture of the whole setup. I did have another third kind of fern in here, but I don't even know what it was, and unfortunately that one got crowded out a bit. It was in this area back here behind the bit of driftwood, so that did kind of, it didn't take root well, and I ended up pulling it up and cutting it up for a little compost for this whole area. So that was the only real failure, was that one fern out of the 3 that I planted. And as mentioned, the Hypoestes phylostachya, the polka dot plant, is growing huge. There's a bit back here that's just mostly green and white, and I want to trim that out and propagate it for a different terrarium. And then this huge bit of pink growth. I probably should have been pinching this off sooner, but now I kind of want to wait until it's spring propagation time. And if necessary, I can always pop another bushier one in here, but I'll probably just propagate some of this up and then use it to fill back in here. This white thing is just a little bag full of nematode eggs? I don't know. Nematode beginnings. And indeed, the fungus gnat situation has been much better under control with a nematode in there, so happy about that. Although it doesn't look great, but you can't see it much of the time because it's well hidden by everything else. Mostly I'm viewing from this angle. And then the Fittonia also has taken off like gangbusters. And again, this is one that I should be pinching back and making it bushier, but it's doing pretty well in terms of being bushy, but I will probably prop from that in spring. Just trim it back, prop from it. I have a couple of people who I want to make little terrariums for, and probably some of what I'll be using for that is propagations out of this. Although I want to know from one of my friends who may see this video, when they said they liked ferns, did they want more like the maidenhair, more like the asparagus, or some other kind of fern? So I will say that they can see that keeping the climate nice and humid in here has done a wonderful job for the ferns. So it definitely makes it a very easy care situation. It is not airtight, and I do come by every day or two and spritz more water into it, but other than that it's pretty well self-maintaining. The moss in general, this bit of cushion moss has settled in really nicely, I think, and this is always kind of hovering between looking really green and healthy and looking a bit dried out. This is the moss that I've got around the driftwood for the orchid. But I don't think it's too bad, and again, I just try and keep it moist, but it's not really, that one's a little rooted now. That one's a little rooted, but because there's dry sphagnum under there to root to, but it's taken a while, so it's definitely something to be slow and patient with and to mostly leave to its own devices. And so, of course, this is the culprit. This is the reason why I made this terrarium to start with, is because we just had very dry roots. We either had dry roots or we had root rot, but we could not get this mini orchid established. And I mean, really, honestly, this root growth is beautiful, and it really is well rooted now. And it had a piece of this new growth right here coming up, but I wasn't sure what would happen with it. And then, as you can see, what happened was I got a flower spike, and now I have opening buds. And this is very, very difficult to get in focus. They really want to bounce the light off them, they really want to blur, and if I come in too close on them, it's a real problem. But I think you can see the way that they're beginning to open up. And I think you can see the way that they're developing. These are, in fact, oncidium orchids. And I will try and get in closer and get more pictures of them as they grow. But you can see the big lip in front, and you can see some of the petals opening. So I'm very, very excited about that development. So there she is, 2 months worth of development, and really, I didn't expect it to really burst forth this quickly and provide this much excitement and growth. But I did notice that over winter, sometimes if I'd open the glass up at the top, this glass here lifts, and I'd open it to water or spritz inside, and there would actually be a temperature differential, so it would actually be warmer inside. So I think that's really given it a lovely environment for these plants to grow in. And I'm looking forward to doing some more sort of terrarium development. I'm not really interested in some of the more classic styles. I'm kind of interested in having fun with our postmodernist little concepts, like our tiny little subway entrance in here. going down to a ferry-sized subway. So a challenge I have is a friend mentioned Route 66 as a theme. So I'm still thinking about that and how I might pull that together into a terrarium. And I haven't really got my theme for the other person's terrarium yet, but it'll come to me. And in the meantime, I also have a bell jar set aside for myself and some interesting materials, and I will make a whole video about that, my next attempt at putting something together, because I'm going for some really different hardscaping, but I don't know yet if it's going to work, so it might be a video that takes me a little while to put together. And a couple of other things I wanted to say. This is my biggest leaf on the Monstera deliciosa. This plant has been growing since it was quite small last February, and I'm really enjoying, it's not variegated, but you can see that the way the leaf has grown in, there's some real streakiness to the green, which is really beautiful. And then this is another leaf that was the next one to come in after that, and that's also got that streaking on it. So I don't know what to say, because it's not variegation, but it's not variegation either, if you know what I mean. So it's very pretty, and I'm just going to enjoy it for what it is right now. And this is the latest leaf coming in on the very smallest piece of growth in this pot. This pot has basically 3 plants in it, which is why if you were looking at a sport variegation, it would be strange, because this is one plant and this is another separate plant. So that doesn't make sense. It's something about the environment, but I'm enjoying it very much. And so this is a third plant again, a third root system, and this is the newest leaf from it, and it's currently just that gorgeous, you know, it hasn't even begun to harden up yet, and it's that beautiful bright green. So oh, everything is all in different parts of the room right now, because I'm supposed to be getting a new window installed in this room, so I had to move all the plants so that they're not going to get crushed. So if things look a little different, that's why. Nothing too important. And then, last but not least, a little follow-up. So I made a video about a very expensive rare plant I bought that immediately snapped off, and I said that I'd put the broken off part into water, even though this doesn't technically propagate this way. It's not supposed to, but I think you can see what I'm seeing. It is covered in tiny white roots. They look very much like roots to me. If it's something else that's happening, then I just don't even know. So I'm hoping that we'll keep this in the water and we'll see more development of that, because that would actually be really cool. I'm still keeping the pot with the roots in it. That's my little propagation glass right now. But I'm still keeping the pots in a moist bag, the pot that has the roots. So it's damp and humid in there until spring. I'm trying not to keep the soil too wet, because I don't want to promote root rot, but I also just don't want the whole thing to dry out. So there's also a slim but not zero chance that that comes back to life that way. So it would actually be pretty entertaining if I were now growing 2 plants off of this one broken plant. But honestly, it's hard to have much hope right now about things. Hope is such a rare commodity. Everything's been very difficult and depressing, and it's just fun to watch these roots come in and think, maybe I'll be able to grow this plant from scratch. And then it's going to take years to get to be anything big and glorious, but it's, you know, what can I say? I'll drink to that. But I'm not this glass, because it's hopefully busy developing roots. Alright, well, I hope you all had a nice visit, and I look forward to showing you more of what I'm doing with terrariums soon. Just showing off my micans, because I'm really happy with it right now. Isn't it pretty? So I hope you have lots of new growth for spring, and if it's the northern hemisphere, and if it's the southern hemisphere, I'm just envious. Sorry, that's all there is to it. Alright, goodbye plants. It's not quite good night, but goodbye for now.